replacing a no-hub coupling. Yesterday, the cast iron drain in the floor clogged, allowing the utility sink to fill up with water on both sides. Now all the plumbing you see, except for the white PVC, is from 1975. Back when they built this house, they weren't quite comfortable with putting plastic pipe underground. So what they did is they would go in the ground with no-hub cast iron. They take a no-hub coupling and then they clamp it into a PVC by no-hub adapter, and that allowed them to go with beige or gray PVC. In this case, they used beige PVC. Now, if they had used beige PVC, there wouldn't be this no-hub coupling there. But because it's there and I had to take it apart, it's now starting to fall apart. I replaced it a few years ago when I had to clear the drain out before, but it got all messed up when I cleared out the drain. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put a new one in. And this is pretty easy to do. I just have a 5/16 right here. I'm gonna undo these clamps and that'll allow me to pull this pipe up. But I wanna look for as much play in the piping as possible. Now this is a utility sink drain and this is the vent. The vent is very flexible and it runs up there, so I have a lot of play in that. But because of that trap right there, I'm gonna undo that nut and that'll allow me to get some flex with the drain because the drain is very stiff. So I have a bucket in my trap there, and I'm gonna undo this union nut. It's kind of hard to see, but that just loosens counterclockwise. You may have a glue trap, but this is what I installed a few years ago. And then I'm gonna try to spin this, and you can see what I did. So now look at how I have much more flex in the pipe, and now I can start to loosen this coupling. Let's see how I'm able to get this loosened. And I don't care about this old coupling. I'm gonna throw it all out. So I'm gonna loosen the bands all the way so that they pop apart. Alright, I got that out of the way. I'm just gonna pull this off. Now you can see this is the gasket. And if it's really old, it'll be very brittle and possibly just break it. But this one's only a few years old because I replaced it before. So it's still soft. And I'm able to move this out of the way, being very careful not to damage the old piping above. Let's see. I should have got a knife. I could have just sliced the rubber. But you can see how I got that loosened. And the piping, it's strapped up above, so I'm not going to worry about it breaking. The elbow could snap, so that's what I have to be careful about. Alright, I'm going to take this rubber gasket off. And now we have the old pipe hanging down. And this PVC, you know, it's easy to clean, you just wipe it down. But this cast iron, it's very rough. So I have this Scotch-Brite pad, and I'm going to use that to clean off this because I don't want any rust or anything that will damage the seal. These couplings seal really well, but I want to make sure it's clean as possible. Alright. You know, it's very old, so I have to be careful. Alright. You can see how that looks close to new. And now I'm going to wipe the PVC down. Now you might have an adapter like this, or you might have just a PVC pipe coming down, and both will work pretty much the same way, except the PVC pipe alone might be easier to clean. Alright, wipe all this stuff down. Okay, now that I have that all cleaned up, I'm ready to install my new coupling. Now remember that this is rubber, so I can install this with water going down here if I really wish to. So what I'm going to do is I have the ability to just loosen this a little bit with my hands, but I could also use this to make my life a little bit easier. Now you could loosen these all the way to the point where these clamps pop open, but it's hard to put them back together, so it's easier to slide it on. Now that I've done that, I have my new rubber neoprene gasket. Let me get this out of the way, being careful not to break it. I'm going to push this down, and no hub cast iron will have a lip, and these PVC adapters do also. A regular pipe that you cut will not have any lip on it, but it should still work fine. Now this is the hard part. Some people might try to use a screwdriver, and I want to save that as a last resort because I don't want to break the gasket. Whoops. Yep. Pulled too hard. Didn't break anything though, so I gotta be careful. I'm gonna try from this angle. Now, in most cases, you're just gonna cut this and you're gonna slide both pieces in. But I found the way this is, it's easier for me to just do it this way because I have flex in my vent pipe. Right, almost there. There we go. There we go. Now it's finally on. Some people might comment that I could have rolled this gasket down, but these are pretty much flat with each other and I can't pull up, but I can pull from side to side. So it would have pretty much been as easy to do it that way as this. Now I have my clamp and I want these screws to be facing the easiest point of access. Now some people might access this from this side if I took the washing machine out, but this is where I'm going to access it from, so I'm going to do it this way. And I want to alternate between clamps. So I'm going to tighten that one down a little bit. Move on to this one. Now I'm going to go down to this one. And I'm doing that to make sure that everything tightens down evenly. Because if I were to clamp down one side all the way, this side would smash the middle because it'd not allow it to flex in this clamp. So tightening it when you're alternating really helps. And I don't want to over tighten this. You might break the clamps or the jacket around them, so you want to be very careful. And some people use a torque wrench, but carefully tightening this down will be good enough. Alright, now it's starting to get snug. One side may want to tighten more than the other. This PVC adapter is just a tad bit smaller than the cast iron, so I'm gonna have to tighten that side down a little bit more, but not too much. You can see how it's done, it's in place, and now I'm ready to reattach my trap, and that has a threaded adapter. I want to be careful to damage any of this, but you can see how I have that in place, and I'm now gonna tighten this nut. I'll have to set the camera down to be able to do it. There we go. And now I have this engaged, able to tighten the nut down really tight. All right, and now turn on the water. I'm testing this trap here to make sure I didn't damage it, which is doing good. I know this should be running uphill, but it was a little bit hard because of the way the pipe came out of that teeth. And this seems to be good. There you can see there's a new coupling. No leaks, it's all good. And all I have to do is just clean up this area because it's a little bit dirty.